new direction to Indian national movement. So what will happen in 1905? Three things will happen. Rise of extremism. Curzon will be viceroy during this time. So we will see Curzon's reactionary policies. He will take up 3 different reactionary policies against Indians and specifically against people of Bengal. Okay. So his 3 policies will be Universities Act, then Calcutta Corporation Act and Partition of Bengal. So all 3 will happen under his tenure. Now under Curzon's reactionary policy, I will teach you what was University Act 1905, I will teach you what was Calcutta Municipal Corporation Act. But third thing that he did was Partition of Bengal. We will take up separately because Partition of Bengal has a very significant impact. Partition of Bengal. See, when you look at India's map, you see that West Bengal is one of the states. And then you are confused that this state which is in the east, why it is called West Bengal? Because West Bengal is in the eastern part of India. So a state in the eastern part is called West Bengal. So when you will study Partition of Bengal, then you will understand why West Bengal is called West Bengal. It is not West Bengal because it is in west, because it is actually geography located in east. But then we will study this, then we will understand why it is called West Bengal. So this third thing will have a very significant impact. So these are the 3 things that we need to study in 1905. Now first I will tell you about the rise of extremism. Here I will tell you what is their ideology and I will tell you how they are different from moderates, and then we will see what was the reason because of which this extremism came up or why there was growth of this extremism. Next we will discuss Curzon's reactionary policies, that what reactionary policies he has taken against Indians and specifically against Bengal, because I have told you at that time Bengal was the most prosperous state in India because everything that started in India began with Bengal. So as a result, this people, British, wanted to hurt the sentiments of Bengali, and for hurting the sentiments they did these 3 things: Universities Act, Calcutta Corporation Act and Partition of Bengal. So University and Calcutta Corporation is a small thing which Bengalis will accept, but Partition of Bengal will be something they will not be able to accept. And agitation against this partition will start in such a manner and it will be so ferocious that this issue, regional issue, because see, Bengal was a state, so any regional issue should remain regional, but anti-partition struggle will become a national issue. So this agitation against the partition will be so ferocious that it will take a national character, and fighting British will become priority rather than annulment of partition. So though people will start agitation to make sure that this decision get annulled, but their agitation will become so ferocious, it will take such a national character that self-rule will emerge out of this agitation, because this will happen in 1905, and in 1906 people will start demanding self-rule. So this agitation is very important, this event is very important, because agitation against a regional exploitation becomes a national issue. So whole nation will fight that yes, what has happened in Bengal is wrong. So when whole nation is fighting, then you are able to divert their attention from Bengal to a common enemy, that is British. So it is not about partition of Bengal, it is like because British is there, that's why this has happened. So our first task is to throw away British. Our secondary task is to make sure that a partition is annulled. But first task is to throw away British. So in 1905 we will see these 3 things. Then from 1905 to 1909 nothing significant will happen. Agitation will die down. Muslim League will be formed. Tilak will be jailed. And this Congress will be split into 2 parts because extremism has already taken the root, so extremism will rise. So since there will be 2 groups in Congress, moderates and extremists, they will not be able to tolerate each other. As a result, they will be split. So 1905 to 1907 is not much. 1909 is not much. We will see formation of Muslim League in 1906, Congress split in 1907, Tilak will go to jail in 1908, and anti-partition struggle that will start after 1905 will die down till 1907. So after these 3 topics, then we will go to next topic, national movement from 1909 to 1919. So in 1909 another act will be passed. So we will see what was that act that was passed. It will be Indian Council Act 1909. So that act has many provisions. So we will look at the provision of that act. And after that in 1916 this moderates and extremists will come together. So we will see why they have came together. In 1914, World War will start. So we will see what will be the impact of World War in India and whether India will participate or not participate, and what will be the what will Indians do when World War is happening in India. Revolutionary or militant people will rise up. Militant people are those who will take up arms against British rule. So we will see what factor resulted in their rise, how some people from extremism became militant, so whether their approach was right or wrong. And then there will be Home Rule League that will be started by Annie Besant and Tilak. So we will study Home Rule League, and by doing this we will reach till 1990, and from 19 to 1939 we will study next phase. Okay, so do you get a broad idea of what we are going to study? Okay, so first let's start with rise of extremism. Just give me a moment, please. See, let me tell you one thing. Since you will be preparing for this exam, so there are various kind of ideologies that you will study and various theories you will study. Whether it is idealism, whether it is realism, whether it is socialism, capitalism, communism. Please understand, every theory, every ideology has its pros and cons. You may agree with one ideology, you may not agree, but that does not mean that those who do not agree are wrong. So never criticize anything that yes, what I agree, if you believe in socialism, socialism is right, capitalism is wrong. Okay, don't do that, because all the ideologies have their pros and cons. So it may be right in one situation, it may be wrong to apply them, but it does not mean that ideology in itself is wrong. So never criticize any ideology just because you do not, your personal view does not support those ideology. You can have your personal views, but that should not be reflected in your answer. Your answer should be a balanced one, and not only your answer should be balanced one. Second thing is, you need to understand this also, that no ideology is wrong. There can be benefits, there can be negative impact of that ideology, or there can be disadvantages, but it does not make it wrong. Okay, so make sure you take care of this thing, that you do not criticize any ideology, or you do not think that this is right, this is wrong. There is no clear cut black and white. Okay, that this is right and this is wrong. So first let's see, in rise of extremism, that who were these people who were called extremists, what was their nature, why they were called extremists. Let me write down some points and then I will explain it to you. It is not necessary to write this point. If you want, understanding is more important. Okay. So some of the ideas that I have written, which will give you an idea about who were extremists, like these people always opposed moderates. Now why these people opposed moderates? These people opposed moderates because moderates were respectful of British. These extremists were not respectful of British. So if there are two people, one is respecting British, one is not respecting British, the one who is respecting, you will at that time call him moderate, one not respecting, you will call him extremist. So why he was called extremist? Because he just hate British. He was willing to go to extreme ends to throw away British, because he told that if this British is exploiting me, if this British hate me, I will hate him in return. Okay, so these people have a practical approach. So when they see that the problem is such that they are inflicting terror, they are inflicting pain, we will also reply with that. If they hate us, we also hate us. We do not want their rule. Okay, that is a secondary matter how we will govern India, but we will not govern under you, or we will not let you govern. It is we who will govern. You will not govern. You have to go out of my country. These people believe that a trial of strength is necessary. Trial of strength means they thought it is necessary that Indians and British should fight each other. So when you say trial of strength means you believe that you should fight with the another person. Then only you can see that who is more powerful. So since this people has believed in masses, this people have believed in Indians, so they thought that okay, let's fight and let's see who win. If you win, you rule us. If you lose, you get out of my country. These people believed in boycott. Okay, see, moderates gave the idea of Swadeshi, but moderates will never propagate boycott. Boycott is you are directly inflicting pain on British. So this extremist will go for boycott. When they will start anti-partition agitation, they will start with boycott. After 1905, because extremists will come into the picture and popularity of extremists will start rising. Because see, when suppose if masses are there, press is there, if you are able to see that from 1885 to 1905, moderates have not been able to achieve anything, then you will be critical of moderates. So similarly, because of rise of extremism and because of rise of this kind of people who have this kind of belief, these people were gaining popularity. And when they were gaining popularity, as a result, in the later years 1905 to 1907, work of Congress was guided by extremist influence also. It was not only moderates who can influence Congress politics. Okay, so these people wanted to boycott. Now even when moderates were forced to boycott, moderates will boycott only in a limited manner. But these people will boycott in an extreme manner. Extreme manner in the sense, we will boycott your education, we will boycott your goods, we will boycott your governance system, we will boycott your police. So we will boycott everything that you have. So suppose if they have to go for judiciary rather than going to court, they will say let's go to panchayat, because that was the system that was prevailing in India. So we will not go to the judiciary that has been established by the British. So these people will boycott British rule to extreme end, and in all sphere, wherever they can boycott, they will boycott. These people believed in a personal sacrifice. Okay, personal sacrifice, because they believed in replying terror with terror. So obviously, if British is killing Indians, they will also kill. Now you cannot inspire people, or you cannot motivate someone to give their own life. So only see, because of this reason, there will be only handful of people who can provide leadership to this kind of ideology, because everybody will not be ready to give their life for the sake of nation. But these extremist people were those who were willing to give up their life for the sake of nation. So if British is doing anything wrong, or if British is spreading terror in India, they will reply with the terror. And as a result, some authors call them terrorists. Okay, these people, if you read your book, these people were called revolutionary terrorists. But these terrorists are not modern day terrorists. They never wanted to incite fear in the mind of Indians. They were not the terrorists who will loot Indians for their personal gain. These people were called terrorists because they believed in replying terror with terror. So if British is inciting terror among Indians, we will reply with terror. That's why these people were called terrorists. But don't confuse them with modern day terrorists, because these people were hardcore nationalists. They were not like modern day terrorists. They did not did it to increase fear in the mind of Indians. They did it because they wanted to reply British in the language which British understand best. And had it not been for the extremists, India would not have achieved freedom, because it was only at the later stage we will see that in use of Indian National Army, and because of the leadership that was given by Subhash Chandra Bose, it was possible. Because at the end, British were afraid that if Indian Army started revolting after looking at the Indian National Army, then British cannot stay in India. Towards the end of the class, I will also share one video about the war historian G.D. Bakshi, where he has claimed that the British Prime Minister who left India, the British Prime Minister who signed Indian Independence Act will claim that it was because of INA and Subhash Chandra Bose that we left India. Because after 1945, they won World War and all the leaders were in jail, movement was crushed. So it was asked that what is the reason that you left India after 1945 when you have won World War? You would have been able to rule India for next 10, 20, 30 years or maybe 40 years. So why you went away in panic? So they said that it was Indian National Army because of which we did. So these people, they should not be considered as modern day terrorists, because if these people would not have taken arms, if these people would not have inflicted pain in the British, if these people would not have taken the path of militant nationalism, India would not have been able to gain freedom at an early stage. Maybe our struggle would have prolonged for next 40-50 years. Right? So these people should not be confused with modern day terrorists at all, or they should not be criticized on this ground. These people were hardcore nationalists. Why I call hardcore nationalists is they were the one who were willing to give up their life for the sake of nation. It is different to give up your life for your own cause. They were willing to give up the life for the cause of fellow Indians, for the cause of nation. So their path was different, but that does not make them wrong. It is different from the moderates, because moderates believe in peaceful fight. They believe in fighting with arms, but that does not make them wrong. Okay. Then they believe in connecting with masses. Now, why they believed in connecting with masses? These people believed in connecting with masses because they wanted to inflict terror. They wanted to take up arms. They wanted to fight British, and they wanted trial of strength. So obviously, handful of people cannot fight. So these people had no problem with masses because their method of agitation is completely different. And in order to do or take up their movement, they need support of masses. So as a result, these people feel more connected with the masses than the moderates, because moderates has this mental friction that masses are not ready to do the kind of agitation that we are doing. So moderates always remain away from the masses, but extremists find huge popularity among the masses. And this is one of the reasons why after 1905, when this leadership came up, see how this leadership came up, when press will start talking about it. So suppose if some who belongs to or someone who has extremist ideology will do something in Maharashtra and it will reap some benefits. So this will be discussed in the press. So people in other parts of the country will come to know about it. So similarly, if you are inspired by an extremist idea, you will take up arms, you will do something in your state and it will reap some benefits. So this is how this ideology started growing. So when this ideology started growing, people started supporting extremists more than the moderates. So as a result, their popularity will increase, and these people will have no problem in connecting with the masses. Also, when the moderates were in the mood of reform and administration, these people were the one who started demanding self-rule. So they were the pioneer on demanding self-rule. Self-rule is Swaraj, that is, we want self-government. Though you can sit, British Parliament can be there, we will accept your sovereignty, but you will not rule us. So you have to compare this with the moderates, that on the one hand, those people who have failed for 20 years are continuing to demand the same thing. Give reform in administration, give reform in administration. But these are the people who are saying, forget reform in administration. We don't want any reform in administration. You leave my country, you go back, I will rule. So see why they are different from moderates is, when at the time when moderates are demanding reform in administration, they will go one step ahead of moderates. So when moderates will be inclined towards self-rule, these people will say, no, we want freedom. We will not be satisfied with self-rule. Self-rule is what we demanded in 1905. Now we don't want self-rule. By 1930, they will say, we want Purna Swaraj, or we want complete independence. Okay? So they will be one ahead of moderates in the sense, they will be ahead in the sense their demands will be more extreme than moderates. That's why they were called extremists. Is the idea clear to you? Now, do you get the idea who were extremists? So I hope you can clearly distinguish between the ideology, moderates and extremists. Okay. So now there are some reasons which gave birth to this ideology, right? The way we have seen that there was birth of moderates, and the way we have seen how moderate came or how Indian national movement started, similarly something will happen which will give birth to extremism. So let's take a 2 minutes break. After coming back from the break, I will discuss with you the reason for growth in extremism. We do not need to go into specific example like what action they did or what they did not, because those factual questions will not be asked. Just to give you a broad idea, I will just write down some points which will show you that or which will convince you that why extremism took place or why extremism started in 1905 and why not before or why not after. Okay, so just to understand the ground and to understand about partition of Bengal, it is necessary that you understand the reason that gave birth to extremism. Because until and unless you understand the birth of extremism, you will not be able to understand the significance of anti-partition struggle. Okay, so let's take a 2 minutes break, and after coming back, we will continue. Okay. More you try to remember history as a story, more it will be easy for you to recall events in exam. See, I'm not saying that you do not have to do factual part. You will have to do factual part. But more you try to connect thing and remember it as a story, more it will be easier for you to retain. First write down the point, then I will take up the explanation. First point is growth of self-respect and self-confidence. Just listen to it. Just write down this point, okay? Please don't take running notes. Running notes will not be of any use for your prelims exam. Just listen to it. Understanding will help you to solve questions in exam. Taking more notes will not help. If it is required, I will write it myself only, or I will give dictation. So I have listed some of the points which will result in growth of extremism during that stage. So what are these points? First, I have written growth of self-respect and self-confidence. Now understand, when you have to study extremism, how will you study extremism? Whenever you have to study this extremism, you compare it like this: 1885 on one hand, 1905 on another hand. Okay, so always remember this gap of 20 years. Don't read extremism in isolation. You should read extremism only in comparing with moderates. Okay, because why do we call these people extremism? Had this ideology would have been there in 1885, then I would not have been teaching you rise of extremism. So rise of extremism means some new ideology has came up. So if you want to understand something new that has came up, you should always compare it to the previous system or the previous ideology. That's why don't read it in isolation. Read it as 1905 compared to 1885. Then it will be much clearer and much easier to understand. First point I have written is growth of self-respect and self-confidence. So what happens is that these people who have started agitation in 1885, they were not sure about themselves. They do not know how we will agitate, what success we will achieve, what we will do, what will be our method. But by the time these people have reached 1905, they have this self-confidence. When they have conducted a Congress session for 20 years, when they have written articles, when they have passed resolution, now they have learned that how we will agitate. They have learned the political work. So now they think that yes, we are capable. We have proved ourselves that we are capable of governing ourselves, and we should not sit in the Congress and just agitate. We should sit in the Legislative Council and do the function as a parliament does. So there was growth of self-respect and self-confidence. So from where does this self-confidence come? This self-confidence comes from the hard work that they have done for 20 years. So once people have done this work for 20 years, they now have confidence in themselves. And as a result, they have some kind of self-respect that you cannot rule us. I will not accept your sovereignty. I am not subordinate to you in any manner. So as a result, when these people come up with more self-confidence, more self-respect, then obviously they are bound to take new measures to achieve their goals, because they were not able to achieve it under the umbrella of moderates. Next I have written is growth of education and unemployment. Now again think about the year 85 and 1905. 20 years gap is there. So anyone who has taken birth in 1885 is by 1905 is by the age of 20. So he is almost on the verge of completing his graduation. So just imagine in this 20 years there will be so much multiple rise in the number of graduates or number of educated people who will come up in the scenario, though it was a minority. But again, when you read the data, it is 7 to 8 time increment in the number of graduates. So with the spread in education, you get more leadership because more people understand this idea of democracy. More people understand this exploitation. These people who are coming up in 1905 have the opportunity to go and study the work that has been done in the past 20 years by these moderates. So these people will be more educated, they will have more ideas and they will have a wider knowledge base. So as a result, these people can give leadership. So don't just think it as a number of educated Indians. Think it as the number of increment in leader. So if you have 1,000 leaders in 1885, now you have 7,000 leaders in 1905. So obviously when leadership will rise, then the movement is bound to rise. So and when movement is bound to rise and when more people are getting educated, obviously more people may get influenced by the diverse ideology. So maybe when there were few Indians, they were only restricted to one ideology. With growth in more educated Indians, more people are getting diverted to different kind of ideology, or more people are able to see that the ideology of 1885 have not worked, so let's try something different. And second thing is growth of unemployment. Now why this growth of unemployment? This educated Indians, I have told you, they will not work in agriculture sector. Industry was not there, service was not there. So what they will do? They will work either in administration or they will work for another government job. So as a result, these people have government as their employer. Now government has a limitation of providing job or creating job opportunities in the country. So these people will get education because of British, but they will not get employment because of British. So what British has done this, on the one hand they are creating educated Indians, but on the other hand they are not creating employment opportunities. So where will these people go and work? They will not work. Now when they will have no work and these educated people are there, they will become frustrated. So it will be very easy to channelize their energy. I will give you one example. Around 4 or 5 years ago during Arab Spring, not 4 or 5 years, it was 2 or 3 years ago, Arab Spring is old, but because of Arab Spring, one Niktat law was passed in Saudi Arabia. So why Niktat law was passed in Saudi Arabia? Niktat law says that 10% of the local people will get employment in the firms that are doing business in Saudi Arabia. So what Saudi Arabia thought is that if the number of unemployed people will rise, then it will give the fodder for any kind of revolution. So in order to divert them from revolution, give them job. So as a result, Saudi Arabia passed this Niktat law under which 10% seats or 10% employment in the firms in Saudi Arabia will be reserved for their local citizens. So as a result, this Arab Spring kind of situation does not happen in their country. So these people who have education, who can provide leadership but have no job, where will they channelize their energy? They will channelize their energy towards revolt. They will channelize their energy toward mass mobilization, and they will be dissatisfied with the British, so they will fight to throw away British. Point is, if they are not getting jobs with the government, they will turn up against the government, and as a result they will take up arms or they will fight against the government. So this is the another reason why rise of extremism was seen. International influence. Now one specific influence that is used during this time period is Russo-Japanese War of 1905. Japan was an Asian country and Russia was considered to be more close to Europe. So Japan has defeated Russia in the war of 1905. So this spread a sense of thrill among Asians that if Japan being an Asian, a European country, Indians cannot defeat British, Indians can also do so. So let's take up arms and let's fight against British. Then next is existence of militant school of thought. Now extremism is close to militant nationalism, but this militant nationalism has not taken place or came into existence suddenly in 1905. There was already some kind of thought that was prevailing. But because moderates were dominating, these people were not able to come out in open. Because after revolt of 1857, these people feared that if they will take up arms and they will come out in open, then they may be crushed easily. So different secret societies were formed and they used to propagate this idea of militant nationalism. So some militant nationalism was already existing in India. But what happens is when they will see that extremism is getting popularity, people are connecting with extremists, and extremists are growing and their support is growing. So these people will be able to come out in open and they will be able to support extremism. So when they will support extremism, then obviously popularity of extremism will grow. So another reason that is given is, don't think that militant nationalism was something that suddenly came up in 1905. There was some existence even after 1857 and it continued for next 50 years, though it was an underground activity. Okay. Next point I have written is Curzon's reactionary policies. So when he will take reactionary policies against Indians, then it will convince Indians more that this British will never rule in interest of Indians. And not only they will not rule in interest of Indians, this British will continue to hate Indians and they will continue to take reactionary policies. So only way to stop or to prevent our exploitation is throw away British. So we will study his reactionary policies as a separate topic just after this discussion. Then it will be more clear to you. Next point I have written is dissatisfaction with the achievement of moderates. Now if I will ask you that what moderates have achieved, you can easily tell me. Indian Council Act 1892 passed, and with that act even moderates were not satisfied. And second thing is they gave the idea of Swadeshi. So if you talk about their achievement, they were not able to achieve anything. When they were not able to achieve anything for 20 years, so why will someone like to follow their ideology, or how do you think that their ideology will remain popular among the people? Yes, in 1885 it was a popular ideology, but when after 20 years in 1905 you are able to see that this ideology has not worked, you are not able to achieve anything significant from this ideology, then obviously new people or new people in the sense those people who will join the revolution or who will join Indian National Congress or who will join politics by 1905, they will be more eager to get independence. See, when you started in 1885, you were less eager to fulfill your demand. But over a period of time, your hunger for achievement will increase. Suppose if you start your preparation this year, so maybe you are not that hungry for success this year. You think, okay, this is my first year, I may make mistakes. But in your fourth year, you will be more hungry for success. So similarly, these people are more eager and more impatient in 1905. So as a result, if they are more impatient, they are less willing to give more opportunity to moderates and they are ready to try with new ideologies. Last point that I have written is trained leadership. So why trained leadership? Again, time period is 1885 to 1905. So when you reach 1905, you already have established and proven leadership record that yes, you can provide leadership. So when there is increase in the number of senior leadership, they can create more leaders. In 1885, these people were early leaders, but in 1905 situation is such that they can create more leaders, and more leaders have came up because those who started political agitation after 1885 have got the training under early leaders. So there is new band of trained leadership who are ready in 1905 to provide more training. So as a result, when your leadership, see, in 1885 they were inexperienced people, but in 1905 they have 20 years of experience. So with 20 years of experience, obviously they can try new ideology, they have more self-confidence and they are more sure about their work. So as a result, it fueled the rise of extremism. This is not the reason that okay, this happened so extremism came up, but when extremism came up and you analyze, then you can find that yes, these reasons have some kind of relation, whether it was dissatisfaction with the moderates, whether it was growth of education, whether it was international influence. So this thing came together and resulted in rise of extremism in 1905. Okay, see, time, it is just a matter of time. It can be 1904, it can be 1906. Time is not important, but point is this kind of thing was growing on in India, and as a result it accumulated and came out in 1905. So the reason why it came out in 1905 is basically because of this person's reactionary policies. He did so brutality in Bengal in 1905, and they did it with the intention of hurting the sentiments of Bengalis. So as a result, what happens is that these people will see that there is no other way rather than fighting for self-rule. Okay. Maybe if he would have done it in 1904, we would have seen that extremism have taken birth in 1904, not 1905. So 1905 is not important. But point is, these things were growing, these things were giving one or more reason for the rise of extremism over a period of time. Okay? Is it clear this far? Okay, so let's see what will be the Curzon's reactionary policies. See, we only have 5-6 minutes left for the class. So what I will do is, rather than discussion, let me write down the points. So what happens is, even if your class ends in between, you will not lose it. You can come to the next class and continue the writing part. So let me write down some points. I will take up the explanation in the next class. Okay. What points I am writing is about Curzon's reactionary policies. So two significant reactionary policies that we will study here is Universities Act and Calcutta Corporation Act. So just write down what you will do there. Please don't worry in case class ends in between, because I will not discuss anything. Just write it down. In case you miss anything, you can come back and write it in the next class. I will take the discussion in next class only. First thing is, just write it down. Let me repeat in case if you have any doubt. Reduction in number of elected members in Calcutta Corporation, year 1899. So Curzon reduced number of elected members in the Calcutta Corporation. Why? To satisfy Europeans as they complained about delay in getting license. So why it is considered as a reactionary? It will reduce number of Indians in the Calcutta Corporation. Write it down. Have you written